YBA Has Changed. I've been playing this game for a long time. I started playing towards the tail end of April 2020, putting us at a little over 3 years of YBA, with me starting with the game only 4 months after its initial release. During this time, I've seen and done a lot of things, especially with my YouTube channel. And because of that, I wanted to chronicle the good, the bad, and the ugly of YBA's evolution of a game from when I started until now. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was a big ol' positive, and that's quality of life changes. While a lot of this video is going to be talking about negative and how much I miss a lot of the old aspects of the game that I feel are lost, quality of life is not one of those things. There are mountains of good things that the game has done when it comes to quality of life. For you new players out there, did you know that you used to only be able to have 2 stands for your storage? How about not being able to store specs at all? Your inventory size used to be way smaller, only being able to hold, I believe, 10 items at a time, as opposed to the 25 you now can. Item spawn rates were a disaster. They were so bad that I had to make an entire video dedicated to the fact that they were broken and not working properly. You could have an item spawn in and then immediately despawn because of the systems they were using. Item visibility was equally as bad. Nowadays, when you see an item, it's floating up in the air, it's easy to see, and you just go and grab it. But back in the day, items used to spawn on the floor. This meant they could camouflage into the background, it'd be super easy to miss them, and just, in general, not good. How about the menu? It got a total overhaul, including the ability to go back to the main menu. So if you wanted to play a game mode like Steel Ball Run or main game, you could just go back to the menu and pick it instead of having to restart the entire game. Farming for stands is so much faster than it was before, because when you eat a roca and it kills you, you respawn almost instantly instead of having to sit there staring at your cold dead corpse waiting to play the game again. Similarly, text boxes are way faster, with the ability to skip dialogue by clicking, just saving you lots of time. Admittedly, some of the text boxes are still in the old style. I'm not entirely sure why these weren't updated, but regardless, the new text boxes were great. Speaking on respawn times from earlier, NPC respawn speeds are way faster. You used to have to wait like 10 minutes for your default story bosses to respawn, which when grinding for levels was miserable. And of course, I can't talk about quality of life changes without mentioning the fact that your pity saves upon leaving the server, which is probably less of a good thing about current YBA and more of a what the fuck about old YBA. Yes, that's right, it used to be that your pity for stand skins would reset if you left the server. So you could be in the server for 6 hours building it up, leave, join back, and you'd be back to 0. What the hell? But that's a thing of the past and just generally makes the game easier to play. That's what all of these things do, and there are so many quality of life changes that the game has undergone since I started that I'm sure I just cannot list them all. The map is one of those changes that I have no idea how the community received because I pretty much disconnected from it at the time of its inclusion. But in my opinion, I think the map change was generally a pretty great idea. As much as I'm nostalgic for the old YBA map, and I really enjoyed playing on it and had pretty much all of my best YBA memories there, the reality is that the map didn't have the rest of the game in mind when it was created. NPC placements were seemingly nonsensical and often wasted a ton of your time, especially when it came to the story. The amount of distance that you would have to travel to get from one NPC to another, and the amount of empty space that served no purpose in between that was ridiculous. Never mind the fact that when they started making the story longer, they just added another train station and made you run all the way down the train tracks instead of putting in a train. That's insanity. The new map's NPC placements make sense. It actually has all the NPCs, including gyro, so you don't need to go to SBR in order to get spin anymore. And overall, I think the new map is just better than the old one, regardless of how much I enjoyed the old one. Old YBA's sound and visuals had a lot to be desired. I don't think that that's a controversial take. And the new reworks and stands look and sound incredible. You can't look at the difference between some of the old stuff and some of the new stuff and think that they're even from the same game. Like, I would bet you if you took a non-reworked stand and put it up against a reworked stand and you showed somebody both of them and asked if they were from the same game, they probably wouldn't know what to tell you and would more often than not say that they weren't from the same game. That's just how much of a drastic departure the new visuals and sound design are. That being said, the visuals and sound design aren't all good, because when you add too many flashy effects and sounds, you lose game readability. The reality of the day is, especially looking back on old YBA clips, it is way easier to tell what's going on in those clips comparatively to now. Everything has so much flashy shit going on that half the time you can't tell what move's being used. I think at the end of the day, most people that are playing the game don't care about game readability, so this is something that they haven't even really considered, but it's something I've considered, and sometimes it'll get on my nerves when I get hit by something that I literally couldn't see because the effects were getting in the way. I could say it's also pretty jarring to see different stands that have near identical moves that totally lack the effects that the others have. So easy example is a kick barrage. If we look at the kick barrage for Stone Free, it's got extra effects, it's got different sound effects, it's got all this stuff going on, and then we go to an old kick barrage and it doesn't have any of that. So again, it's the same thing where you look at it and you're like, is this even from the same game? And so that is a little bit odd, I won't lie. Overall though, it's pretty clear that the visuals and sound design have improved tenfold compared to the old YBA. Believe it or not, YBA used to update extremely frequently. Just taking a look at the old Discord logs from years prior, and you can see that there were often updates nearly every week. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, weekly updates is both unhealthy and unnecessary. I imagine Uzu went through a similar experience that I did myself back when my YouTube channel first started blowing up. I neglected everything in my life in order to pump out videos every day, did nearly 8-hour streams on those same days, and simply put, it was psychotic and awful for my mental well-being. Going through that myself, I'm sure Uzu did the same thing around this time, and considering that I was miserable, he probably was too. That being said, the amount of time between updates recently is absolutely crazy. People might not have been around for it, but there was a point where we had gone an entire year without the game receiving any gameplay-related content. A year! Many, including my past self, have used that year drought to try to justify multiple months between updates, but the reality is, that's way too long, especially when pushing out a fix for game balance should only take around a week maximum to complete. Over the time I've been playing, I've realized that Uzu likes to wait to push fixes with larger updates, but what this actually causes is for players to have to suffer through legacy issues for months at a time, and this much has not changed. Looking at the game now, it's almost hard to believe that skins just flat out didn't exist in this game during its inception. There are people on today's YBA that only play the game because of the skins, which blows my mind. The question everyone always asks though is, did the introduction of skins truly hurt the game? And I think the simple answer is, and always has been, no. Bottom line is, Uzu doesn't create skins. And the amount of dev time that's gone into things related to skins is almost certainly minuscule compared to the creation of all new stands, fighting styles, game modes, etc. So while I personally feel that the skins system is extremely scummy and predatory, as well as a total waste of time, trying to make an argument that the game is somehow worse off because of them is something that holds very little ground. I will say I do miss the days of seeing a stand, always knowing what it is, and not being harassed by people that are asking me for my skins, but the game itself has only really benefited from skins being in the game, bringing in players that otherwise likely would have quit a long time ago. If the skins aren't actively hurting you and they're making other people enjoy themselves, then who really gives a damn? Come on, guys. YBA's balance has always been a disaster. It was a total mess before, it's still a total mess today. So I guess while in a lot of ways YBA has changed, there are some things that will always remain constant. If you were to ask me whether I think YBA is more or less balanced now than at any other point in the game's lifecycle, I'd say it's probably about the same. Today we have nonsense like Vampire auto-comboing you for over 50 damage and being nearly immoral, but does Vampire really hold a candle to when Star Platinum of the World could beat down you during its time stop, killing you in one hit? How about KCR's Reality Marble stunning you and being able to hit you on the ground, making Raging Demon effectively take away half your HP for free, since Raging Demon knocked your stand out and ragdolled you? What about GER's counter, lasting an absolute eternity, guaranteeing them all of their projectiles and an activation of their awakening with time to spare? King Crimson's Chop Impale Cheese that you could land off of a single epitaph? Or maybe the World Over Heaven's True Damage stacking with Haman, so that way you could do like 2.1 damage a barrage all the time. The World AU had unblockable knives on like a 2-second cooldown. Who the hell thought that was a good idea? That's not here anymore. Or how about when they made knives block break for that small amount of time? Were any of you around for that? Because that was a nightmare. Made in Heaven Infinite Speed, the list goes on. Point is, YBA's balance truly has always sucked. And I think the reason for it has always been pretty simple. Uzu makes all of the decisions, and he does not play his own game. I can't say I totally blame him for not playing it. A lot of developers don't play their own games. But when you're so disconnected from your own game and community, you're bound to not understand exactly what's causing major issues. You pair this with the lack of updates and you get, well, YBA's balance. This is the biggest change bar none, and it's something that I've touched on numerous times in my What Were They Thinking video series. YBA's combat has gone through 3 main iterations, with the most recent one being, in my opinion, the second worst, and probably not going anywhere anytime soon. The biggest thing that set YBA apart from other Jojo games of its time was the combat. In seemingly all other games in the medium, if you landed one attack, you did a simple string of moves afterwards, usually stunning someone for an extended period of time. YBA bucked this trend by making it so your M1 attacks traded stun time for strength. Rather than having long combos that took players' control away for far too long, YBA's combos almost always consisted of 1 to 2 moves ending with a ragdoll, giving the victim a chance to reset back to neutral and continue the fight. The combos that you did get oftentimes only did 30 to 40 damage in their entirety. The thing about old YBA is that it had slow moves with long amounts of end lag, making it extremely risky to just mash attacks. The attacks that weren't risky to throw out at any given time were your M1s. This made YBA's combat just as reliant on M1s as any other game in the genre, just not in the same way. An M1 trade is something that happens quickly, involves very little stun, barely takes away any agency from either player, and during the trade, because most of the moves that could combo extend were slow, trying to use one rather than a quick ragdoll to finish the combo or some more M1s was ill-advised, as if you got hit and had your moves cancelled or were blocked, you were inevitably going to eat a combo yourself because the end lag was so long. And I still haven't even touched on Barrage, the best mechanic YBA ever introduced. Giving every stand an evasive in the form of Barrage makes otherwise true combos that can do tons of damage no longer true with smart play. But if you mess it up, you're going to eat a Barrage yourself as well as a follow-up. Now this mechanic is still present in today's YBA, but its function is heavily diminished. Not only do several abilities disable your barrage entirely when they hit you, but due to the nature of how fast moves come out now, and how little end lag they have, even if you time a barrage correctly to cancel a move, a lot of the time the player you barraged has time to just barrage back, and that's not even where the problems stop, because once again, due to the lack of startup on moves, more attacks than ever true combo off of the barrage, making using a barrage to escape a combo even riskier. And at this point, I don't think I need to tell you that eating a combo today hurts a hell of a lot more than it did a year ago. Overall, I feel like the combat has heavily changed for the worse, and the minute-to-minute gameplay of today's YBA almost seems to have more in common with its competition from 3 years ago than it does its own mechanics that it pioneered. In the old combat of YBA, it used to feel strategic. Using a move was a big deal, and moreover, if you screwed up using a move, it wasn't an absolute death sentence. But that is no longer the case, and I think it's the worst change that YBA has ever endured and probably ever will. This is the last thing on my list, and it's something that I sort of tacked on, since in all reality, I don't know how much has changed with the YBA community, since I all but disconnected myself from it in recent memory. But that in of itself is sort of why this section is here to begin with. It's sad. But at least to me, the landscape of the game has changed so much that it simply doesn't feel the same anymore. I don't know any of the reputable gangs, I don't hold community events, my own gang, the R-Kings, is basically on life support, with me rarely talking or communicating with most of the friends that I made there, and it all makes me feel a bit numb, I guess, looking back. On the rare occasion that someone reaches out to me for the gang Discord, I just ghost them, since I don't even play there anymore. In some ways, I guess I miss sort of being the unofficial community manager and face of YBA. A lot of people don't know because I rarely brought it up, but I would regularly, almost daily, play a game of telephone with the YBA staff, Paragon in particular, in order to get issues resolved. People would send me things, I'd pass them forward to the developers, effectively giving a voice to probably hundreds of people over the years that otherwise would have almost certainly been ignored, or fallen to the wayside. It wasn't my job, I didn't get paid, but out of the passion for the game, I put in hundreds of hours of my own time while also knowing full well most of the things I passed on would still not get fixed. Bottom line is, a part of me misses all the passion that I had for that game. I miss commentating tournaments, and coming up with wacky ideas for videos, and messing with people in main game. Getting ganked and calling for some friends to help me out of a tight spot. Labbing combos, making guides, and I guess what I'm trying to say is that as many times as I've said it on videos and on streams that the current YBA is fine and old YBA was a total mess, deep down, I miss that mess.
No! Yes! Yes! No! I'm King Crimson. You know who you are. I know you'll see this video. Come on, man. No. Oh, come on. Don't do it. Think of the children. Think of the, don't do it. Thinking of the children. No. No, it's you. Are you kidding me? He's gonna be like 6 pistols or some ultra cancer. God damn it.
Oh.
Get that son of a bitch, MM. Get him.
I'm gonna
Kill him. Yeah, I heard that parry. I heard that parry. Hell yeah. That guy's horse. What's it doing? It turned into a Beyblade. It's still going. It's still going. I'm sorry, what? And that's it. Close last match, but II is gonna take the tournament. ABD is your first Eclipse Viewer Tournament champion. attack. Why are you in the floor? Come on. What the f is this shit? I actually caught him with a barrage. We're doing big damage. Oh, yes. Let's go. I can't be stopped. I don't need the mouse. Fuck the mouse. Get the mouse out of here. Oh my god. It's over. That's a wrap.